gonna lose? What's it gonna prove? Who'll be proved?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Lore Reloaded. I am your wondrous host, James, from the Lore Reloaded channel. I will be your lore master today. Hey, if you haven't check me out at twitter.com/lore reloaded. Definitely go there. I cannot beat 888 subscribers. I don't know what is going on with that, but that has got to change. And with that out of the way, let's just get into it. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what's going on. How are you fancy people doing? We got Captain Jesse 1, always a pleasure. Denver Brock, Winston Smith, Darth Calhoun, Nathan Norman, always a party with Nathan Norman. Of course, we got Don Juan, we got Nate Watson. Also, we have Ty Coles. Common Sense America's here. Always fun when Common Sense America is. We got Andrew Gilbertson says, oh, shoot, there's a code? There is a code. And that code has been broken, good sir. That code has been broken. And, of course, Maximium. All right, so today we're going to go ahead and get into it. I was going to do a video today. I'm going to try to still get it out. Don't know if I'm going to be successful. If not today, it will be tomorrow. Doing a breakdown on the USS Defiant NX-74205, the Defiant itself. And as I was going through this and you know, breaking down the lore and everything that was going on, I came to a realization, and that realization was, while the Dominion is specifically a malevolent force, Starfleet consistently and continually broke their borders in ways that if it had been done to Starfleet, we would call them the enemy, and we would have said that they were justified in going to war. And we'll break down it. Imperious Gaming, good morning, Lore. Hope you're doing well and looking forward to the stream. I am doing well, sir. I am doing well. What's going on, Smist Gomon? Unknown 9126. Yeah, the Dominion said for the Federation to stay on their side. Starfleet just had to go exploring someone's territory. It was even worse than that. It was far worse than even when you look at it from that point. So a couple of things to consider is that the first thing is we have the encroachment of the USS Odyssey going to save Cisco. And it's interesting because not only was it the Odyssey, but it was a beefed up or souped up ship. So you had the Galaxy-class starship, but they also had made it a lot more powerful than what the standard was. There's also a lot of there's evidence. Someone brought this up. There was evidence that the Odyssey even had oh man, what is that armor? The Defiant had it. Oh man, what the hell is it? Yeah, all of you guys are going to scream it. Can't believe it. Ablative armor. And the reason why I think it may have had ablative armor is the Odyssey took a ton of hits with no shielding. It never, a Galaxy class never took that many hits without shields like that. And so it's almost a given, I think, that they had to have some form of ablative armor on there. So you send out this ship, right? And then the ship, and it's a massive ship. It's a capital ship, right? And it gets destroyed, and they're told to stay on their side of the wormhole. Ty Coles, didn't you do a video about Cisco's MF and Pimpan? I, in fact, did not. I did a breakdown of the Defiant class, but not the USS Defiant. The Mother effing Pimpan, which will be done today or tomorrow. So, again, they send the Odyssey. The Odyssey gets destroyed, and the Federation, Starfleet, says, you know what? This isn't working. There's some issues here. So we need to garner peace. We need to find a way to start a conversation and show the Dominion that we aren't a negative force, that we don't want to kill anybody. So here's what we'll do. We'll take the only ship we ever created at this time for war. The only ship, the first warship that was ever created, and we'll go to the homeworld of the founders for peace. So let's consider that for a second. The Odyssey evacuated all non-essential onto DS9 before the mission. They probably lost more than 400 officers. 400 officers would be very hard to keep a Galaxy class running. They probably lost around 1,000. I get what Dialogue said in the Next Generation. That's not reasonable to run a Galaxy class ship. They were severely undermanned if they had only 1,000 people. Severely. The wormhole opened up in an outer region within their territory, but they didn't warn the Federation until Season 2 end, so they waited, unlike the Federation and the Bajorans. I don't necessarily... even if we accepted that, which, I mean, there is some lag there, a lot of... the warning came long before the major encroachments occurred. And so I'm not 100% on that explanation. Yeah. So, I mean, when you look into what exactly happens, here's another thing as well. So first off, they're exploring the Gamma Quadrant, even though they were told not to. Science ships were going into the Gamma Quadrant and we're exploring. And we know some of them got destroyed. We know through dialogue, right? Then they know that the Dominion doesn't want them to start trading with the other Gamma Quadrant powers or with the other Gamma Quadrant species, right? Andrew Gilbertson, 1,000 people is the standard complement. Who did they offload? There was still 1,000. They probably would have offloaded families and such as that. And no, 400 is not plenty to run. Or 400 is plenty to run because every star officer is working at all times. Okay. It's not. But, so, what do they do? So they want to trade with Gamma Quadrant powers, but none of the powers there want to trade because of the Dominion. They start using the Ferengi and create a black market for Federation and Starfleet materials. And so what happens when one of those powers want to have a conversation about what's going on? So you have the Karuma. How do you say it? Karuma, I believe is how you say it. I would read it Karima, but the Karuma want to have a conversation because they don't like what's going on with the trading and everything, right? So what does Starfleet do? Who does Starfleet send? They again send the warship. They send the warship to have trade negotiations for the black market deals that Starfleet and the Federation are running in the Gamma Quadrant. When the Dominion caught them, the person who was doing the black market deals, the minister, wanted to give himself up so that his crew would be spared. Sisko decides to fire on the Jem'Hadar ships. Now, to make him look like the good guy, the Jem'Hadar ships ultimately fire first, but he was locking weapons and ready to go. So they destroy the Jem'Hadar ships who were trying to stop an illegal black market. And yeah, Thomas Potts, Memory Alpha says a Galaxy-class crew complement can be 1,000 to 6,000. That would be accurate. 6,000 is kind of like a emergency trying to evacuation type deal. Generally, 1,000 officers run a Galaxy-class. It took, I don't know how many it took a Constitution. I want to say it was probably less on a Constitution. But it would take about 1,000 people to run it. Don Juan, Sisko was vacationing while he was captured, which also seemed to be the first warning the Dominion gave to Starfleet, considering DS9 crew never heard of the Dominion. Sure. But yeah, so ultimately, they sent a warship to talk with a trade vessel. Once caught, they open fire on the people trying to stop this illegal black market issues. So over and over, while we see a from one side where the Dominion is these constant bad guys, right? The Starfleet, when you look at it from a certain point of view, seems to be pretty bad. Another thing, and look, we have the backstory to it, right? We have the complete backstory. We know what was going on with that. But consider this from the Dominion side. You have a Tal Shiar Obsidian Order strike force attack with the intent to destroy the homeworld of the Changelings. And so it's a trap. It fails. But while this attack is going on, again, the warship, the Defiant, decloaks and fires on Dominion assets. Now, there is a backstory to that, obviously, but look at it from someone who doesn't have that backstory. Yet again, you have the Tal Shiar and Obsidian Order attacking the homeworld of the Dominion with the intent to destroy them. And Starfleet ships begin assisting this fleet and destroy at least 3 or 4 Dominion ships. Whisper Darkling's here, no problem, good buddy. They probably ripped from World War II when Brits mined Norway to stop Germans from going up the fjords. Okay. So another thing to consider is that again, they're consistently not listening, consistently encroaching. They begin setting up listening outposts on the opposite side of the wormhole. How's that look like to you? So you're having warships encroaching into your territory. You're having warships create black market deals and causing dissension within your own government. And now you have them setting up listening posts on your side. But it's made to be seen like Starfleet are the good guys. Andrew Gilbertson, however, the Changelings had infiltrated, at least partially goading the attack, so they would not have been ignorant of the backstory. Yeah, I don't know if they would have known about the Federation. They were focused on the Romulans and the Cardassians. Maybe they could have put 2 and 2 together with Odo. Maybe they would have known that the Defiant was there for Odo, which is why it didn't cause too huge a stir, but still, when you consider it. Captain Jesse 1, does Section 31 want a war to force Starfleet to make better combat ships to last longer and put out more damage in firefights? See, I don't know. I don't... Yeah, I think that would be stupid to go along with soon to be best. I don't think they did that. I do think that they probably created and introduced the virus before war had occurred. So I don't think they would have done that specifically. So the other thing is, and I say this in the video, and I hope I get the video out today, but I say this in the video. Look at what happens with the Defiant. Now, this isn't specific to Starfleet provoking the Dominion, but within the show, within the series, within 1 year, 1 season, what's going on, Hainer Tim, Brian J, 1962, back during my Lasoyo days, good to see you. At least twice the Defiant was taken over. It was captured by the Maquis and used to kill Cardassians, and then a changeling sabotaged it and almost destroyed a Synkethi colony. Given the lack of ability to keep ships like that secure, I can almost understand why the Federation doesn't build warships, because they're not good at ensuring that it's not used to create wars. Whisper Darkling, no matter how you look at it, occupying neutral territory, let alone targeting assets, is in itself an act of war. The question is, who occupied who first, us or the Changelings? I'm not sure what you're referring to in that, if I'm being honest, Whisper Darkling. I'd need you to go a little bit more in depth. I think the Federation and Dominion will never have peace. They will always build ships to fight each other. Probably. You know, another thing they never explored. They wanted everyone to forget about, which I think would have been an interesting discussion, was the use of the cloaking device, not in the alpha quadrant or not in the gamma quadrant. That should have created quite a bit of tension between the Romulans and the Federation, but they never really got into it. And even during the war, when the Romulans weren't involved, if I was the Dominion, I would have been raising all kinds of hell about that. Don Juan, the Jem'Hadar had a list of ships they destroyed, which begs the question, how many ships was Starfleet going to allow to go missing before stopping sending ships into the wormhole? Yeah, you know, that's an interesting thing. That is a... the Starfleet seemed more than happy to allow their ships to be destroyed just to get more information in the Gamma Quadrant. It almost reminds me of, I don't think it was an original episode, I think it may have been a movie, but with the Battlestar Galactica, where you had the military, the colonial military, sending ships in to Cylon space, almost trying to bait them to a degree. And it seems like that specifically when it comes to Starfleet. But remember, Lore Reloaded, that the Changelings were already showing plans to destabilize the Alpha Quadrant power simply because they didn't automatically submit to the Dominion. So, Robert Chapman, let me ask you a question. Should we punish people for thought crimes? Because until you do it, are you still guilty of it? Imperious Game, with what you said about Starfleet not building warships, even though Starfleet doesn't consider itself a military force and doesn't build proper warships, which is completely stupid. Yeah, so here's the thing. I kind of say that tongue-in-cheek when it comes to not building military warships. A Constitution class is a beast and was meant to fight Klingons, as was a Miranda class. To say that a Constitution class ship or a Miranda class ship aren't ships of war is ridiculous, in my opinion, especially when you look at its layouts compared to the layouts of other contemporary enemy ships. But that's what they like to say. They like to sit there and say, well, they like to say, well, you know, we haven't created ships of war. This will be our first ship of war, which is just utterly stupid. Here's something. Adam Spencer: starships can be hacked too, i.e. the Defiant. So here's something to consider too. The first time they send the Defiant to go, you know, talk to the founders, the ship is boarded and captured. Nothing's erased from it, and it stays within Dominion control. Your first warship with a working cloak, still completely operational. Now, it's beat to hell, but still completely operational. You're telling me they didn't get a wealth of Federation technology and Federation information? Imagine everything they pulled out of the databases of that thing. And it looked like it was fully functional. It looked like they had the databases still working. So can you only imagine the wealth? I mean, it's just stupid. And again, that was something that was never even considered. The USS Ares is not canon, no. Maybe not a cloaking device, but how about a hollow matrix where a sovereign can look like a freighter or a runabout? That's true. That's interesting. We also saw it when Ursa and B'Etor hacking into the Enterprise and got their shield codes. Yeah, that's true. Don't remember TOS era not assuming their cruisers as warships. Don't remember TOS era not assuming. Yeah, I mean, the original series, when you watch the original series, is quite clearly, they quite clearly consider themselves soldiers. They quite clearly consider their ships to be warships. That only changed into the next generation. Unknown 9126 says, so much for the Cole Protocol. Oh, wrong universe. Halo, if you have not read the Halo book series, they are excellent. Especially the Cole Protocol. The Cole Protocol it's really cool. 100% American Buffalo, a Prometheus class is a ship designed purely for combat. I'm going to have to disagree somewhat. I think that it's mainly combat. I think during the Prometheus times was when when Starfleet, the Prometheus, the Acura, the Steamrunner, I do think these are ships that when Starfleet said, okay, we're military and we got to start thinking like one. I do think that this is from an audience member. It's from a fan. So this isn't my idea. But here's something that I think probably happened within Starfleet. Starfleet comes back and says, you know, hey, we got to create warships. We can't create ships only for science. And I'm willing to bet that probably the council, the Federation Council or the president said, okay, you can make ships with a focus on war, but have to have the ability to be used for science. And I do think the Prometheus had science departments and divisions. I think Voyager, the Intrepid class vessel, is probably the best example of a warship with a science aspect to it. I think that Voyager was created with the Borg and the Dominion in mind, and so it was first and foremost a ship that could fight, and secondly had all of these advanced science pieces to it. Hashtag the Dominion didn't do nothing. The Dominion was justified in their actions, knowing the Alpha Quadrant were trying to talk to them until they made their ultimatum. You know, this is the thing. I don't give any excuses for the Dominion. They definitively are malevolent. They definitively were bad guys. But they weren't wrong necessarily in their need or want to try to conquer the Alpha Quadrant. The best of them was Starfleet. And Starfleet again created a black market and didn't listen to them and encroached on their territory and sent warships into their territory. That's the best of the Alpha Quadrant. The worst tried to nuke their home world. The infiltration of the Federation was done in preparation of a Fed invasion of the Gamma Quadrant, so they decided to invade first before the Federation could update SHIELD technology. Well, they were surprised by that, weren't they? Second Battle of Deep Space Nine taught them that lesson. O'Brien, DS9, keeps saying I'm not a soldier anymore, I'm an engineer, which means they have soldiers or consider themselves an army at times. Yeah, I don't... Yeah, I think Federation, they are military, they are soldiers. Voyager fight, it would be creamed by an Acura or a Galaxy. An Acura could probably give the Intrepid a run for its money. I think an Intrepid could take out a Galaxy. I do. Galaxies are tough, don't get me wrong. They're definitely heavier ships than the Intrepid. They got more layout to them. But I think the Intrepid has the more advanced technology, and I think it's a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not viable or pliable, but it's the maneuvers and such that it could use is a lot. It could run circles around a Galaxy-class ship. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I think it'd be a lot closer than you think. I think an Intrepid is far advanced above your standard Galaxy class. Maybe not your Galaxy class Dominion variant, but definitely like the Enterprise during the Enterprise era, during TNG. The Enterprise D, non-Dominion War Enterprise D, probably would have troubles with one Intrepid, in my opinion. I could be wrong with that, but I honestly think they would. The Intrepid was a science ship. Why was the Nova class? If the Intrepid was a science ship, why was the Nova class made? Yeah, exactly. They even say in it that the Intrepid isn't science; that it was a ship of war. Do you think, even with the threat of the Dominion, the Federation should have made a separate and fully functional military and not relied exclusively on Starfleet? I think that if we're going to keep Starfleet, then I do think they should have done it into two different separate divisions, and we've talked about this. We've had this discussion where I think you should have had any ship that was USS was a warship. It was a military ship. If they showed up and they had USS, they're there for a fight. Any ship that was like FSS or SFF or SFF or FSS, something like that, was your monk was your science ships. And I think that would have I think that would have helped with a lot of people not having to die. Like, you can't tell the difference between an Oberth and an Acura because they're both under Starfleet. But one is a military ship, one is not. And so I think there should have been two divisions if we're going to divide it like that, definitively. Nate Watson helping out the channel. Again, guys, this is how the channel continues to thrive and stuff. Thank you so much for Super Chats. Really helps. Starfleet also attempted an extrajudicial killing of a Dominion citizen, a changeling, in Klingon territory after the Alliance fell apart. I don't hate that point. Because they did. They did try to kill him without due process, didn't they? That was very Starfleet. Huh. That's a good point, Nate Watson. That's why Nate Watson makes the big bucks. That's what I like about Nate Watson. Makes the big bucks. They ran out of Oberths because they blew them up at Wolf 359. That's true. Making your exploration and science ships also military might be a way to get around the problem they have in the 40K universe where you can't move fleets across your empire fast enough. Yeah, so see, the original series, what I like about the original series was that your warships were your science ships. The Constitution class ship was a ship of war, but it also had a very healthy and large science department. And when they weren't doing military operations, they were explorers. They were scientists. And that's really what it should be. Every ship should be designed, in my opinion, I don't even think you should have Defiant class ships. Every ship should be designed like a Sovereign, or like an Acura, or like a Steamrunner, or like a Prometheus. What's up, Cryptic Streams? And so I in my opinion, every ship should be 70% war and 30% science. And then if you have stuff like the Oberth, then that needs to be not a part of Starfleet. Starfleet can help. Starfleet can have people on it, but it needs to be run in the civilian sector. Let's see. Spies have no rights in warfare. You are legally allowed to string them up on the battlefield. In the real world, Deadeye 313, that is accurate. I don't disagree in the real world. Allow me to bring this counter to you, though. A lot of things people don't consider is Starfleet. Starfleet is not any military that we've ever seen before, and not any military or any organization that's ever really been considered. When you look at how Starfleet operates, they are willing to let people die to push for peace. They are willing to let people let things escalate unnecessarily. And so them not trying to kill a spy, but trying to show the Klingon Empire how they're wrong, is very, very Starfleet. It's not smart, but it's very, very Starfleet. And you know, here's let me give this, because a lot of people think I hate Star Trek Discovery and there's no good in it. The one thing I did like about the Battle of the Binaries that was done well is the dichotomy between Georgiou and Michael Burnham. Georgiou acted very Starfleet. And so when you try to tie in that message, I don't hate it. because it was a very Starfleet thing to do. It was a very Starfleet thing to do to let them fire first, even though it's kind of obvious what's going on. To sue for peace, even though it'll get people killed. The Battle of the Binaries, in that aspect, was done very well. I think it was very Starfleet what Georgiou did, and it was very un-Starfleet what Michael did, which kind of irritates me on why they try to make her the hero when she was just okay. Whew. Deadeye 313. We don't make real ships 7030. Why make fake ones? Because it's Starfleet. Deadeye 313. Asked and answered. They don't do things like we do. The original series was set during the Klingon Cold War. That is correct. Klingons killed the Changeling, and killing is like, oh my god, Brandon G. Brandon G, you get moderator. Brandon G wins the internet today. For those who have watched the Discovery, I don't know if he did this on purpose, but Klingons killed the Changeling, and killing is like handshakes for them. It was respecting the Klingon ways. Yeah, so that's how the Klingon Dominion alliance happened, because every time you meet the Klingons, you're supposed to open fire on them and kill them. That's how you say hello. It's the way. It's how you get respect and things. Oh my god, I love that. I love that. Starfleet also put a minefield next to a strategic choke point the Dominion needed for humanitarian use in the territory of another nation. Yeah, I mean, yes and no. So Nate Watson, Starfleet also put a minefield next to a strategic choke point the Dominion needed for humanitarian use in the territory of another nation. Yes and no. I agree. By the way, I'm going to start putting some of our old stuff up here too for clips, just like the Anti-Trekker does, since he makes so much money off of my work. Winston Smith, again, helping out the channel. Thanks for the Bond Girl shirtless vid. Hey, I'm here for you. But yeah, the Vulcan hello is the dumbest thing on the face of the planet. If you support the Vulcan hello, then you have brain damage. Loyal to Luna, quick point, but the Dominion didn't exactly tell the Federation that it was their territory before attacking. They did. They did, in fact. During Sisko was vacationing, was captured, and then they advised him, hey, you're encroaching on our territory, and here's a, well, they did destroy some ships before that, but here's a list. Don't come and bug us again. What does the Federation do? What does Starfleet do? They send in a souped-up Galaxy-class ship to save one man. But yeah, going back to that, so they were doing humanitarian. I believe the Dominion was doing humanitarian aid for the Cardassia, but it was quite obviously 10% humanitarian. Sisko was willing to let only humanitarian ships come through the wormhole. He just knew that the Dominion has no interest in peace at this point. I'm going to need a citation for that. When did he say that only humanitarian ships can come through? How would he guarantee that anyway? And here's another thing. You know, it's interesting to me that Starfleet was not as worried about Cardassia as they pretend to be. If they were, they would have fought with Cardassia. They were so impotent during the Klingon-Cardassian War. I mean, insanely so. They never said anything about what the borders were. They merely said coming through the anomaly is interference enough. This is them declaring all within their sight. Sure. They said, hey, you're coming into our territory. And then the Federation said, well, what's your territory? Oh, that's the Gamma Quadrant. I don't think you can be more clear than that. Come through the anomaly, you're in our space. If you're in our space, you're encroaching on our territory. Seems pretty clear. In the season 5 finale is this conversation with Weyoun. Yeah, but my problem with that soon to be best is talking about Sisko and Weyoun having a conversation about ships coming through. And he says, you know, you can come through if there's humanitarian aid. But right after that, Cisco says, I was lying, and I know Weyoun was too. They both knew they were lying. So I don't take that at face value. Oratakawa Tinga. Starfleet should be the UFP's military, and other organizations should be formed for scientific, medical, diplomatic. I agree. They have a diplomatic corps, so why wouldn't they do that? Jay Wiggs, for your 007 vid, Anti said all you did was dance and he did the week worth of editing. Okay, well, I mean, whatever story he prefers to push out. Cisco said he would not allow any more ships through the wormhole. The rest of the conversation was BS talk. Exactly, Thomas Potts. He even admits that. He says that, point blank. So, I mean, there's nothing more to that. Common Sense America, Cisco was a man with an itchy trigger. He was. He used biogenic weapons. He used terroristic weapons on a planet and quite possibly got people killed. Should the Dominion have worried more about the chances of the card? I love this one. You guys should watch The Expanse. It's wonderful. Jonathan Medina, maybe I'm misremembering, but isn't there a planet just punished by the Jem'Hadar that the DS9 crew are told the Dominion are punishing us? Yes, there was. I want to call it the Phage. It's not that, but yeah, they infected them. Where are we going with that? So, Arctic Leopard, not to mention they captured a Federation citizen, not just a Federation citizen. They captured a Starfleet officer. I don't know if he was a commander, a captain at that point. He may have been a captain, but someone who was head of Deep Space Nine before the declaration of borders. They intended to hold him without trial and even set the whole thing up to install a Dominion agent. I don't think we have any evidence that they wanted to install a Dominion agent, but they did. They captured a officer, and they then held him and said, "Hey, he was on our territory. We captured him." What would you have suggested they do? Should they? Would you have suggested maybe they had possibly, came to him and said, "Hey, you're in our territory," maybe taking him into their arms and, pulled up his shirt and started rubbing his belly and letting him know that he was a good boy and that there's nothing wrong with being a human. Maybe while a Jem'Hadar was rubbing his belly, getting him nice and relaxed, maybe have a Vorta come over and give him some milk. And just lull him to sleep and let him get a good night's sleep. And then when he wakes up, pat him on the head and give him a cookie and send him on his way. Or maybe capture the military officer found in their territory. Which one would you prefer? Eris was going to be the agent. Okay, that's a good point. So they were attempting to put in a military agent. You can't hear? Y'all like to mess with people. Hold on. I can handle this. Wait for it. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. That should be better. Probably blowing out some speakers. Alright, so let me know if that's better. Sorry, guys. You're not hearing any sound on the clips. I am. I'll have to fix that then. You guys should be hearing sounds on the clips. That has to be on my side. Or that could be it right there. That's probably the problem. You guys should be able to hear it now. So anyway. So Whisper Darkling, right. There are 1,000 ways this could have gone down without loss of life. It seems both sides went out of their way to incite war. I would agree with that, Whisper Darkling. The difference is, my clips should work now. The difference is, I think that Starfleet is just either inept or they're liars when it comes to them not wanting war. Tell me if you guys can hear this now. Hold on. Should be able to hear it this time. Alright, you should have heard music just then. Unless something went on. And then, Evil Scott helping out. Okay, let's test. And if it doesn't work, I'll fix that in the background. I'm sorry, guys. I thought you guys could hear it. But I think I fixed it, especially if you were hearing that music. What happened is I had it muted to hell and back. So sorry about that. And that's what was happening last time. You guys should have been able to hear.
I am not talking about parenting. I am talking about the extraordinary consequences of creating a new life.
Does that not describe becoming a parent, sir?
Okay. But here's the question with this. Hold on, let me see if you guys hear that.
Not describe becoming...
Yeah, you guys can hear it now. Here's the question with that. The Federation are no Boy Scouts. Do you think they're doing this on purpose? Do you have the ability to talk with music on these super chats? I don't understand your question, Resurrect Starships. Can you re-ask that in a different way? But let me ask you this. Do you think that... I mean, I can talk with the music playing. Yeah, see, I can... Hold on, if that's what you're talking about. I can, this is me talking. Anyway. Let me ask you this. Is the Federation or Starfleet inept? Are they naive, or are they doing this on purpose? Are they sending ships in there? Are they sending warships in there, and they're being like, oh, mercy me, mister. I wasn't meaning to start wars. I'm sorry, mister. Or do you think they're just idiots? Just like at the top levels, just dumb. What are your thoughts on that? And Resurrected Starships, if you want to do something like this, I can show you the setup at some point. Okay, that's loud. Well, I'll turn it down. Sorry. I won't be playing it a lot anyway. So they began relations with a ploy of deception without any consideration of diplomacy, says Loyal to Luna. That talking about how the Dominion, anyone who doesn't join, is going to be subjugated and stuff. Well, I mean, again, I'm not big on thought crime necessarily, and I would say that while there are concerns and there are things that would definitely do red flags, the Federation should have used as a chance to bulk up, not to provoke. Thomas Potts, the Federation is arrogant. Yeah, it's probably that. They're probably not stupid, and they're probably not deceptive. They're probably just arrogant. I agree with that. Laura, what would you think would if the Voth decided to accept the true origin theory? Would they fight for Earth and conquer the Beta and Alpha Quadrant, or would they do a Cold War? Or would they be asked to move back to Earth? The Voth, I think... Because the Voth, if I remember correctly, were very, very big on religion and things. Like, it was all around the religion. I think that would have caused so many issues that the Voth may have went into civil war, quite frankly. I hate that we didn't see more of the Voth. That would have been interesting. You know, there's a guy, Lore Runner, who talks about how the episode with the Voth, instead of actually having a direct interaction, the Voyager crew should have never known about the Voth, and that it should have been like the secondary characters exploring and talking about them the entire time. He made an interesting, different episode. The Federation provoked and forced the Dominion into a war to further their own dark agenda. Shannon Nash. Hey all, not sure if this was said already, but New Bajor set everything off. The Dominion saw it as an encroachment on their territory. They didn't care if Bajor wasn't part of the UFP. I would say New Bajor did not actually set everything off. First off, New Bajor is just a stupid name, but I don't think that that would have started everything off. I think the Odyssey and others probably did that a lot more, but it didn't help. I would agree. Yeah. Grand Admiral Thrawn, the Dominion's opening introduction was to kidnap an officer rather than basically show up on Deep Space Nine and say, hey, get off my lawn. Sure. The Starfleet's opening way was to walk into a territory they have no effing idea about and assume they owned every effing part of it and start different colonies and go on vacations and you know, to decide that they owned all that Starfleet could see. So if we want to go down that road. Now, granted, what the Dominion probably should have done is as soon as they saw Cisco, they should have walked up to him and, you know, took him by the hand, brought their hands up and softly stroked against his silky smooth baby skin and led him to one of the, I don't know, either an ocean or perhaps a river or whatever, unclothed him and walked into the water with him and, you know, made sure that he was nice and clean and took care of him. And again, probably given him things like sweet treats and things like them and told him that he was a good boy and then patted him on his behind and sent him along his way, asking him not to go onto their territory. That probably would have been a better way. But again, to be fair, the Federation began expanding like a freaking virus as soon as it saw the wormhole, the anomaly. Remember when Picard was given command of a whole fleet just to block Romulan warships to cross the border? Yeah, the Dominion are baddies, but Starfleet was actively playing with fire. Yeah. They do play with fire. Love you, Lore Reloaded, but that is a straw man argument. You can be diplomatic without being sycophantic. I don't know. I thought that was a good way to have peace. I think that Starfleet would have reacted positively to that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Starfleet wouldn't have taken well to their officers being stripped and bathed. But you never know. The way Starfleet always works, anyway, their diplomacy is always stupid, especially in TNG. Whenever you interacted with somebody, whenever TNG they interacted with somebody, no matter what it was, no matter how stupid the supposed first contact was, they would do it. Like if they thought first contact was to jump on one foot and recite Sesame Street, the thing to Sesame Street backwards, they would have done it. So I don't, you know, it is. This is churning into strange fanfic erotica. It's not. Look, it's beautiful. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it. All right, it's what they choose to be. Let people decide who they want to be. They choose their choice. One thing only, never put images in that. So the Federation can in some way be considered conquerors, much like how we took the West. You know, so me, hold on, I'll get back to that. Grand Admiral Thrawn, there is a middle ground between blowing S up and kidnapping and whatever sexual fetish that was. All right, so let me say this. Real talk, being realistic. Wow, it's funny when you can make yourself laugh. The Federation was used to being big dogs in the Alpha Quadrant, and they were used to using the strong-arm diplomacy. Like you said, with the creating the wall and preventing Romulans from going to the Klingon Empire, using diplomacy to force the Cardassians to pull out of Bajor. Basically taming the Klingons, taming the Romulans. They were used to getting their way, and they were used to doing it while being arrogant and doing what they want. And I think, and I don't know that this was on purpose, but this was very well written and ingenious if they did that. Starfleet was so used to getting what they wanted in the Alpha Quadrant that they tried to do that in the Gamma Quadrant and got the holy hell beat out of them. There's a, I'm gonna be laughing about that all the way. There's a difference between blowing us up and fetish fantasies. All right. I'm surprised the Cardassians and Romulans didn't take advantage of their diplomatic ineptness and squeeze the Federation for more favors. I think they did, honestly. I think the Cardassian border wars was a classic example of them taking advantage of the Federation's lack of diplomacy, especially their lack of use of Starfleet. If you agree to travel through the wormhole, the Dominion would be free to build up without any kind of warning and launch an attack, so possibly they did have some intent in going in. I mean, maybe. The Federation should send ships through the wormhole, and then a while later, the ship returns in two halves every time they went through. They wouldn't go through the wormhole. Well, yeah, I mean, if they showed them, that's possible. I imagine they were more looking for diplomatic ties. Remember at the point of the Jem'Hadar episode that the name of the Dominion only had been mentioned twice. Sure. The Federation is more like a protection racket. Wouldn't it be a shame if we were looking out for you? Wouldn't it be a shame if we were looking out for you? Just look at Pedro. Romulans got the Treaty of Algernon. That was a terrible deal, I agree. Starfleet is a racist organization run by humans hell-bent on control of the entire Milky Way. Humans control all aspects of the government, are in control of its military. You know, I should do like a map pat. Are humans in control of the Federation? That's what I should do. I should do a map pat version of that. It'll be huge. It'll be huge. Oh, Lordy Lou. Lordy Lou. People are really upset about my latest video. It's surprising to me what people get upset about. I mean, whatever, but I always find it intriguing what people decide to get just angry over. I mean, especially when people thought that I was putting down Pike, and I didn't. I thought I was actually very supportive of Pike. Not to mention the oh yeah, and apparently because I don't think it feels like Trek, apparently because I don't feel it seems like Trek, I want the 60s Trek that exists. Oh yeah, the film theory is Starfleet fascist. I'm actually making a video response to that, and I'm doing it kind of like Quentin Reviews did with my video. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be huge. Do Federation commanders feel the urge to go to war for political reasons, such as more funding? No, they feel that the pacifism is so great. Even Sisko was a pacifist for most, for the first at least 3 or 4 seasons of Deep Space Nine. He tried to justify an uncomfortable peace where the Cardassians continued to beat the hell out of the Maquis and to take advantage and to poison and to kill them. Than to do what was right to win or to not have suffering over the long term. Where's Discovery in the timeline? April and Pike came before even Kirk, so where does it fit? I think it was 10 years before Enterprise takes place, I believe. Before the events of Enterprise takes place. Pulaski, more than anyone else, typifies the arrogance of Starfleet at that time. Pulaski was just a bad idea. Whoever made Pulaski is a bad person. What if the wormhole went to the Terran universe instead? That would have been more fun to see a fully armed Terran Empire led by Emperor Picard. That would have been interesting. I agree. And then the Federation Empire War. Jane Albrecht, you weren't. You were supportive of Pike. Yeah, I was supportive of Pike. I even went out of my way. I did an Aki Dearest, or Aki Dearest, however you say your name. Kind of fun thing. And I said I liked Pike. I think it's cool. The one thing I liked about the season 2 is I do like that they're bringing on like main characters who need the help of the crew. That's interesting to me. That's a way of bringing it on. I think that's how you're supposed to do it. Have the characters as secondary characters, or something like that. I think that'd be interesting. This is a full-blown nerd Trek Civil War. Soon all of us nerds will have to choose a side. Brother versus brother. Oh, you guys were talking. Hey, kind of cool. I know you guys hate it when I talk about Eagle Moss, but something I wanted to show you. Eagle Moss created a great skeet. They're trying a new product out. It was really, really cool. I'm going to be talking about it soon, but they got a new skeet thing. And for those who don't know, a skeet is something that you throw in the air and that you shoot with a gun. I'm not big on it, but I'm actually going to be trying it. You guys are going to see me use this live. But it's a new skeet that they made that you can buy, and it's pretty cool. So they give you this thing, and you fire it, you throw it into the air, or you use like a device to throw it into the air, and then you shoot it. Now, they're known for their models, but this obviously, they would never make something so horrific like this. And it's a cool little skeet thing that I'm looking forward to. I think it'll add a lot. For those who don't know, that's Deep Space Nine Bird of Prey. I choose the Terran Empire every day. Who wouldn't choose the Terran Empire? Yeah, DS9's only huge misstep was killing off the Terran. I hate that. They did that as filler, and they did it for laughs. Oh yeah, I hate that. The Bat of Prey, the Bird of Prey skeet. It was. That aside, I do like the Federation ships. Look at that aside. Look at this. I do like the Federation ships myself. I think these ships are cool. I really do like these ships, but I have no use for poorly done organizations at all. Why would you want to shoot that? It needs to be fed to pigeons. Okay. I don't know why people dislike Pulaski. She was supposed to be female Dr. Bones McCoy, and if you watch it again and listen closely, she is. So, McCoy was a racist? I did not know that. That didn't respect other people's, point of view. DS9 killing the Terran Empire was in canon with Spock's estimate. I don't know about that, but let's assume that it was. I don't think they should have done it. Should have found another way. Should have found another way, in my opinion. Romulans have the best starships. I don't know. I like a lot of Federation designs myself. I would sure like to hear the conversation between the producers and that art department regarding all things Klingon. I don't know why they went that way. It makes no sense to me. I sincerely don't understand how this is supposed to make any sense. This makes no sense as a Klingon bird of prey. This is an actual design model. They got it from the Discovery show. Hold on. This is the original series Bird of Prey right here. That's what this is. This is from Discovery. Now let's assume that the sizes would be more in line, right? That this is just a smaller model. How's this organic? How does this turn into this? The thing is they made all of the Empire that way, right? Had these ships been from like a cult, and it had just been the sarcophagus ship and the sarcophagus fleet, then I wouldn't have had as much an issue. You can try to explain it away and say, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a dystopia and they were just trying to throw stuff together and that's how that worked. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Unfortunately, it just doesn't. I don't see how one turns into the other. Our minds are just too inferior to the Star Trek Discovery writers and producers. Star Trek Discovery is my favorite STD, but I still don't want it. I don't want any STD. Would it be wrong to give a steet to... No, yes, Mr. Miles, that would be wrong. You're a bad person. The original series Klingons are leagues better than the Discovery crap we got that looked like... That's my problem. That's my problem, is that it doesn't make any sense. It's just not logical. Pulaski wasn't racist. She had the same relationship with Data as McCoy had with Spock. Sure. Okay, well, this will be really easy for you then. Can you please show me where McCoy says Spock's name wrong? And then, when corrected, refuses to say his name correctly. Can you point out where McCoy constantly talks about how Spock isn't a person? Not a jab, not an attack, not a grumpy old man, but where he truly believes that Spock isn't actual people, that he doesn't have actual feelings and things like that. Not in the heat of the moment, but just seriously. Can you point out to me where, when they're talking with the computer, he thinks a computer is basically the same thing as Spock? If you could point all of those out for me, I would be very appreciative. The Romulans saw those ugly birds of prey and gave them a good design. I can believe that. I blame the Empress for the standardization of Klingon ships. The Tarantino Trek will be good if it's a Terran Empire rated R. Terran Empire movie in the Kelvin timeline rated R. Boom. Mind blown. The 1,001 green-blooded fool comments per episode weren't a big enough giveaway. The 1,001 green-blooded fool. Huh. Interesting. Anti-Trekker agrees with Pulaski about Data. Does that mean Anti-Trekker is racist? Well, Anti-Trekker is talking about a series and his opinion about Data. If Data was real and he said those things, then yes, he would be a racist. You make it sound like a sure thing that Data is a person. They literally had to have a court case to resolve it. First off, they had to have a court case. There were several court cases that happened that ensured that people who had different colored skin were considered real people. Would you also use that exact same of logic? Because you wouldn't. So just because there was a court case doesn't mean jack. But beyond that, to answer your question, yeah, they had a court case and they found that he was a real person. So yes, she was a racist. Yes, little Timmy, Pulaski was a racist. There is a Santa Claus. To be fair, Data is largely an unknown when TNG is getting started and is plainly more closely related to the ship's computer than to any known sentient. Yeah, it's BS, Richard. That is. I mean, he is more closely related to the sentient beings than the computer, and there's multiple examples of that. Remember when he gets drunk and he compares himself to humans? The computer didn't get drunk. The computer didn't get impacted, but Data did, so that shows that he's first off connected. Beyond that, they worked. What was that, season 2? So they've been with him for 2 seasons. She's obviously wrong in retrospect. That doesn't mean her belief was unreasonable. Okay, I dare you to apply that logic to things that happened in real life. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. By the way, Data's a person. If Data was enough of a person to go through all of Starfleet schooling and training, you'd think the court case would be unnecessary. Yeah, that's what... The episode is done well. The episode is well written. The episode has a great message to it. But the episode, the more you think about it, is so stupid. He goes through all of Starfleet. He serves with the crew for 1.5 to 2 years. What was Measure of a Man? When did Measure of a Man come out? Hold on. Star Trek, Measure of a Man. Measure of a Man came out season 2, episode 9. So he had been there with them for 2 years and some months. And he had bled with them. He had helped them. And even the crew, Picard, isn't sure that he's a real person. Are you kidding me? After everything they've been through? Are you... Okay. And I think Picard is what won it. We are on a mission to seek out new life. Well, there it sits. I mean, I don't disagree that he came around. I don't disagree at all. Voyager's biocomputer system is more like life than data. Okay. What's interesting is there's a good argument for the computer to be considered life, too. The computer shows all of the... most of the same things that Data did. Interesting. Please turn up your mic. My mic's all the way up. Everything's all the way up. I mean, I can talk louder and stay closer to it, but everything's maxed out. So I can't do it any better. I'm sorry, but I will attempt to talk up for you. We only had to legalize my... okay. What if, by destroying the Terran Empire in the Mirror Universe, they actually created it in the Prime? Maybe. Whisper Darkling says they didn't just slap a uniform on him. He went through Starfleet Academy and earned his rank. He put in the work. He did. He did. You know, so the one thing I will say is that when we accept that Data is a person, that does open up some very interesting questions for EMHs. I would think that EMHs are like droids in Star Wars. An EMH, when it originally goes live, does not meet the criteria in Measure of a Man. But I think the longer you keep the EMH on and not purging his memory, the more he has the capability and will become sentient. And that if you wanted to prevent a sentient being, that you would have to purge the EMH's memory quite consistently. Jay Albridge says, we can agree to disagree. I still love your channel. Yeah. I mean, that's what the channel's about. Channel's a conversation. You guys don't have to agree with me. God help me if you disagree with me. People think I hate it when people disagree with me, but honestly, I give what I get. I get anywhere from 100 to 300 comments a day, and so I'm only going to put effort into what I'm given. So if you come off snarky, I'm just going to respond snarky and keep it moving. What's going on? Let's see if you're on. You're in the shot.
Yep. Do you know something cool? I have a new computer, and maybe if Dad will let me, I'll go on there, but I'll definitely be on this computer, maybe. But my channel's almost up, right, Dad?
All right, go play with her.
Help me.
Yeah. Was it wrong to deactivate lore? Should he have had a trial? Well, if lore is data, he meets the same requirements, then he should have had a trial. That would have been wrong. Lore used Borg to slaughter colonies. He didn't need a trial. Technically, Starfleet should have required him to have a trial. Technically. What if a machine program does gain self-awareness? Do we investigate and interact, or do we just call it Skynet? Probably call it Skynet. I think my problem is your assertion that Pulaski is some sort of racist. For doubting that a crazy genius built was a real person. I do think she's a racist, not only because she doesn't believe it, but the way that she interacts with him and treats him. His name is Data. It's not Data. She calls him Data. When he corrects her, she doesn't care. Everyone else is treating him as if he's a person, and she doesn't. She, all high and mighty Pulaski, knows better than everybody else on that ship, and so will not treat him the same way that anybody else does. She treats him with such condescension that that it's annoying. The reason why they didn't like Pulaski, if they tried to make him like McCoy and Data like Spock, they didn't do it right. Anthony, thanks for helping the channel. Thank you so much. Grand Admiral Thrawn, imagine if the ship's computer had a personality. Yeah, see, here's the interesting thing. When I was doing some research, I found Jay Aldrich. I'm not saying you were coming off snarky, so I apologize if that's what you thought I meant. I was just saying, there were two concepts there. Let me correct this first. So, Jay Aldrich, there were two concepts there. First, you were saying that you disagree with it, which is fine. This channel's a conversation. I like it when we disagree. The second was me just talking about how people will get mad when I respond to snarky comments in a snarky way. That's not related to you. It's just saying that's how a lot of people do. 200 comments, 50% of them are trolls and people being snarky. And I try to respond to as many as I can so I don't have time to be anything other than what you give me. If you're thoughtful and you disagree, I try to respond thoughtfully. If you're snarky, I respond snarky. A lot of people think that I just respond snarky to all of them. Imagine if the ship's computer had a personality. So here's the thing. I was doing some research, and I found evidence to believe that the ship there may be more of an argument that the ship is a real person than Data. The ship has reproduced. Not even joking. TNG, the ship reproduced. The ship has consciousness. It's aware of where it is, what's going on, and what's happening. The ship also interacts personally. So while researching Data, Data has a conversation with the computer. Data is looking at something, and he's talking to himself, and he says, oh, this is fascinating, or oh, this is interesting. And the computer pops up and says, hey, I don't understand your command. What are you trying to ask me? And he goes on, and it's kind of a slapstick thing where he tries to explain, he explains what talking to yourself is. And the computer shuts him up and is like, oh, I understand. Thank you so much. And then shuts off. There are some interesting parallels between the computer and Data. When did the ship reproduce?
The last thing I expected.
EMH has a positronic net. Data has a positronic net. EMH is just code. So, brains being different somehow impact if it's real or not? I mean, I don't mean that sarcastically, but that's my question. Was it ship in a bottle or a... Oh, it's Emergence. It's the episode Emergence. Here it is. Season 7, episode 23. Ship has a baby. Has a baby. Isn't the ship one big Siri? Maybe. Yeah, so Emergence. A series of puzzling events on and off the holodeck lead the crew of the Enterprise to a surprising conclusion. The ship is creating its own offspring. The crew has to assist with this arduous process to ensure the survival of the emerging life form. Well, yeah, Moriarty I look at as a different... Moriarty I kind of look at as a holodeck thing, kind of like the emergency medical hologram, EMH, the Doctor. I would call the Doctor alive. I would not consider the Voyager. I would not consider Voyager alive because I consider the Doctor alive. It is separate. He even interacts specifically with the computer. You know, when you think about that, though, as an EMH, you see him messing with the console and everything. It would probably just be easier if he deactivated his holographic matrix and did it that way. It would be an interesting but weird if they found a hologram of a body for the ship's computer, then it uses the replicator and transporter to give itself a body and clothes. That would be weird. Do I think Vic Fontaine was sentient? I do. I think Vic Fontaine was sentient. Given all of his abilities, he is the match of the Doctor. The difference between Vic and the Doctor, though, is that the Doctor wanted to expand himself. Vic didn't care. But yeah, that really was a weird episode. I completely agree. Emergence was random, odd, and out of nowhere. All right, guys, we're going to be ending very shortly. Why did Shatner block you? What's up with that? Let's go to Twitter real quick. Log in. Sweet! I was going to say, I was stuck on 888 forever. Thank you guys for whoever followed. You guys rock. Rock. Yeah, brains being different might impact how AI acts very much. Neural nets have to be trained to form new pathways. Hardwired stuff accepts programming. Both have different advantages. So here's my question, and I wasn't being sarcastic. Is there a difference between code and positronic net? Does one make it a life form and one not? And that's honest. Talk to you later, Azrael Sword. Thanks for coming on. Thinking on it, why don't starships duplicate themselves from time to time? It'd be cheaper than shipyards. Yeah, it would. The Doctor can't interact with the rest of the Voyager computer because his area is partitioned. It might as well be another system. I guess. Maybe. I don't know. I guess maybe that makes sense. All right, guys. So I think we're going to end it there. Soon to be best. Helping out the channel. Again, hey, single dad. Keep all the lights on. I do stuff like this. This is what I do full time. Thank you guys, everyone who supports it. We'll wait for the thing to pop up. The $10, and then we will be on.
And helps
Oh.
us.
What is on your
And why is
face?
that there?
Is that a disguise?
That's there because that's what people want. Say it helps us.
Yeah, and to help us so we don't starve to death.
There you go. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I'm going to see you on the very next Lore Reloaded.